Shalom party people, and welcome to the 12th Seas Toolbox. So today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about some of these ratchets that I picked up from Harbor Freight. These are the Icon line. I got them in 3/8 and in 1/4 inch drive. And this is really just kind of an initial handshake. I have tools that I've had for more than 13 years that I've been using very heavily that I like to review. I have some tools that I've had for less time than that. And in my mind, if I've had it for less than 6 months, anytime I'm talking to somebody about the tool, this is a handshake. I have, maybe used it a little bit. I have, run it through a few paces and, decided to keep it, but I haven't had it long enough to, in my opinion, truly articulate what I like and don't like about something. I can mention a few things here and there, but what I consider a handshake review is, for me, anything less than 6 months use. And that's just the nature of where we're at. So before we dive a little bit deeper in this, let's go to our scripture of the week. Deuteronomy 2:26 through 37. So I sent messengers from the wilderness of Chemosh to the king of Heshbon with words of peace, saying, let me pass through your land. I will go only by the road. I will turn aside neither to the right nor to the left. You shall sell me food for money that I may eat, and give me water for money that I may drink. Only let me pass through on foot. And the sons of Esau, who live in Seir, and the Moabites, who live in Ar, did for me until I go over the Jordan into the land that the Lord our God has given to us. But Sihon, king of Heshbon, would not let us pass by him, for the Lord your God hardened his spirit and made his heart obstinate, that he might give him into your hand, as he is this day. And the Lord said to me, behold, I have begun to give Sihon and his land over to you. Begin to take possession, that you may occupy his land. Then Sihon came out against us, he and all his people, to the battle at Jahaz. And the Lord our God gave him over to us, and we defeated him and his sons and all his people. And we captured all his cities at that time and devoted to destruction every city, men, women, and children. We left no survivors. Only the livestock we took as spoil for ourselves, with the plunder of the cities that we captured. For Ar, which is on the edge of the valley of Aran, from the city that is in the valley as far as Gilead, there was not a city too high for us. The Lord our God gave all into our hands. Only to the land of the sons of Ammon you did not draw near, that is, to all the banks of the river Jarbrook, and the cities of the hill country, whatever the Lord your God had forbidden us. All right, so this is a summary that Moses is continuing to give the people of Israel. And he's reminding them, hey, we went here and we fought the king of Sihon. At first, what started off was we basically sent an emissary saying, hey, we're about to pass through. We only want to go on the road. We're not going to go off the road. We're not going to be messing with anybody's fields. We're not going to, be taking livestock or, anything like that. We're not going on a raiding party. We're just asking to pass through. And if you'll let us pass through, we will pay for any food that you will sell to us, and so that way we can eat, and we will pay for water to drink. Like we don't want to come in and raid you guys. And this is, essentially like, hey, just let us pass through. Like we're not gonna off-put you guys. Like, and if we do, like, we're gonna pay for it. And that's the thing. But Yahweh had been working on this king's heart and had basically turned this guy's heart to stone and said, no, we're not going to do that for you. And then he mustered up his army and went to fight Israel. And Yahweh gave the lands of this king into the hands of Israel, like, because it's like, hey, this guy is not being a dignitary who's worthy of trying to, have peace with a group of people. And the skeptics can make the argument of, it's like, oh well, yeah, Yahweh's like hardening this guy, and so did he really have a choice? And I like to think that the guy did have a choice, but Yahweh is still in control, even if this guy has a choice. And this land is becoming part of the promised land for Israel. It may not be in the the specific tiny little portion that we think of Israel today, but it's something that everywhere where Abraham's foot set was going to be part of his great grandkids' inheritance, and that's something to note. And you also get skeptics who are like, oh, well, this was very violent. They killed men, women, and children in all of this. And, aren't you someone who supports? And it just, realistically speaking, this is not a raiding party where Israel's going in and just, oh, hey, we're going to take over. It started in self-defense. This guy mustered up an army to fight Israel when he could have, said, yeah, we'll sell you stuff. It's going to be a little expensive because, my people need to eat too. So, there's going to be a premium because we're going to have to go do business because we only have enough crops for us. He could have even done that, and they probably would have accepted that, just because it's like, hey, you've got, shy of 2 million people walking through with, you guys and your animals. And so that's going to put a strain on the land. That could have happened, but he said, no, we're going to try and fight you guys off. And is it harsh to men, women, and children? Yeah, it is. But think about it this way. The entire book of Esther are descendants of some people who Yahweh told Israel, hey, wipe these guys out completely. And they left some of those Amalekites alive. And Haman was one of the descendants of the Amalekites, and he absolutely hated Israel, and he wanted to snuff out all the Jews. So in this sense of crushing your enemy completely, if you've read the 48 Laws of Power, that's something to note of, we don't want these guys coming back and, their sons, their grandsons, having an eternal blood feud with us. In the sense of warfare, that's, it's brutal, but it's a fact of life. In that, starting with emissaries of peace, we're not jumping to violence straight off the bat. This is, hey, I want to go through and I want to pay for it. This is not a charity case that I'm asking for, but this is what needs to happen. And then the bad guys, the adversaries, are the ones who started the violence. And when that happens, we have to be ready to finish it. And sometimes that requires not having any half measures. And personally, I think the big difference is knowing when to extend mercy and saying, hey, listen, we're going to bury the hatchet and, everything's going to be all right. And when someone truly does mean you harm and you 100% crush them completely so that way they can't come back and try again later. I think the real level of power in that is knowing when to do that, knowing when to show mercy, having that distinction, and also having the ability to do that and choosing mercy anyway. Because if you are not capable of extreme violence as a man, then you are not a good man. You're just a weak man. If you are capable of extreme violence and you have that under control, that's what makes you a good man, is that you can control that violence and you will not dish it out unless it is absolutely necessary, and you'll only dish it out on people who are trying to mean you and your family harm. That is what I want you guys to take away from this. All right, so let's talk about these a little bit. This is the Icon G2 Professional Long Reach Flex Head. It's in 3/8" drive. The specific part number off of this is going to be 58585. The model number that they're going to call it is the R2 LF. That's Romeo 2 Lima Foxtrot. So this, I chose this one for a couple of reasons. I wanted a little bit longer in the 3/8, and I wanted to really get into trying out this whole swivel head thing. My main squeeze as far as a ratchet has gone for a long time has been this Blue Point. There's other ratchets that I own, but this one in 3/8 has kind of been my baby. It came in a kit. You know, that video you'll find in the description if you want to see the Blue Point 155 piece kit, and that's not what this video is about today. But I didn't really realize how much I liked the quick release function, and I just thought it was no big deal. And so I wanted to get into something that was non-quick release, because one of the downsides of a quick release function is if you're in really tight corners, you might bump that button and eject your socket. So I was like, okay, well, let's try this bad boy out and see what I think. So no quick release on this one. It's just friction that holds it on, or actually I guess the detent ball, but the friction of that detent ball you've got to overcome to get through. And I really wanted to try out the flex head. I have coworkers who have the flex heads, and they really like to, in different tight quarters, they can use it like that and kind of drive similar to what you would use like a hand or screwdriver to get in. And that's something that it was like, let's try it out. I've seen theirs, I've used theirs a little bit, and it was like, I might like this. I wanted this particular one non-comfort grip because my thought process is if I'm getting into more confined spaces that are going to require the extended reach, the comfort grip handle might get in the way. So that was my logic behind going this route. And so far, I've used this ratchet a little bit, and I do like it. I think it's good. I don't think it's the best ratchet in the whole wide world, but it's nice. I mean, if you guys want to hear, there's that 90 tooth, and it's good. The amount of leverage that I get off of this, I like. So initial handshake on this, it's cool. One of the I guess downsides is, like I was mentioning, quick release, I'm just used to pushing that button and it ejecting my socket. And now you can pull real hard and it will come off. And in this one, you've got a little bit of effort behind it. And that's just something that I guess 13 years of using this style just caught me for a loop. So you put a smaller socket, shallow end, and you're gonna kind of fish for it to get it off. I imagine as I use this longer and longer, it's not gonna be that big of a deal because it's gonna help break in a little bit. On an extension, you just have a little bit more meat to get it off. You can pry it with your thumb and it's not the end of the world, but you're using these really smooth sockets. That's just part of the high chrome world. You're using these smooth sockets, and it was different because, like I said, I'm used to this. Goes in, socket pops off, and I can pry it. That's not an issue. I can get in there and separate it if I have to. But that just push button, I never realized how much I like it, and I don't know. I do like this ratchet. I think it does what I need it to do. This one, the Swivel-Head. This is the 3/8 professional Swivel-Head ratcheting comfort grip. And part number on this one is 64698, or R2SW, that's Romeo 2 Sierra Whiskey. This is kind of I guess a knockoff of the Zyklon, or there's one that Snap-on makes too. They claim this one's 90 tooth. It's just a lot louder ratcheting mechanism on that. But you've got what they say is 270 degrees, and that's cool. I mean, realistically, it just needs to be able to go from here to here. I've heard of some of these, other styles of this that the swivel head can potentially lock. And I want to say I've seen one that somebody makes that you can actually press the detent on the top, and it would work like what my Blue Point one does. Don't care, in all honesty. I like this. I like being able to turn it straight on and actually use it like a driver, that's kind of cool. Same thing. I guess the whole not push button thing, maybe it was going to bother me, I don't know, but this one's not as stiff. And so it's, at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. You know, if I go for a shallow on this, there we go, it still comes off. So it's not that big of a deal, and I like it. I didn't know how much I was going to enjoy using this style of ratchet. And some guys don't like this style. It's all personal preference. 3/8 Stubby. This is 56196 R2 ST, Romeo 2 Sierra Tango. So just a nice, short, easy to use 3/8 inch drive ratchet. It'd be really cool if Harbor Freight would do this in a 1/2 inch drive. I don't use a ton of 1/2 inch drive currently, but that, you know, may change. It's kind of cool when the deep well socket that you're driving is actually almost as big as the ratchet itself. This one is stiff coming off, but it's, you know, it's not the end of the world when you're using a deep. When you're using a shallow, it goes on, comes off. That one's not that bad. This one, this long reach one, just has got one of the stiffer ball detents, and maybe that'll loosen up a little bit more over time, like I expect it will. Also, because it's a because it's a flex head, I imagine that makes it just a little bit more challenging to get off. But it's not like it's impossible. It's just noticeable, like, oh, hey, that's stiff coming off. Basically got the flex head in the normal size for the 1/4 inch drive. I see a lot of videos where guys are taking these, and here, so you can hear the teeth on that. I see a lot of guys buying the snap-on 3/8 and changing out the pawl on that, so that way they can have a smaller 3/8 inch drive ratchet. And that, like, cool. If you guys want to do that, that's fine by me. I think the cooler end would be doing a bit head on that, a 1/4 inch drive bit receiver, and you can buy the snap-on kit for that. And there's guys who are doing that to this style. This 1/4 inch drive is 64696 R1F Romeo 1 Foxtrot is the model on that. I'm enjoying the flex head on this. This is kind of fun. As far as sockets popping on, popping off, it's stiff. It's there, and just like what the big one is. Honestly, that may just be me. Maybe I just have weak hands. I don't know, but going for the extension on there, going for the shallow, I guess the good news is when you're elbows deep in something, the socket is just not going to pop off absent-mindedly, which is good. But yeah, that's stiff. There we go. Now it came off. Maybe I just have weak hands, but run that extension, run that socket on there, and it does come off. So all in all, what do I think initial handshake on these ratchets? I probably have, with all 5 of those currently, I bought them Black Friday, got a really good deal on them because they were doing 40% off. So that basically paid for 2 of them out the wazoo. I don't know, I probably, since Black Friday and the time of this filming, I don't know, maybe 10, 20 hours of just different amounts of time using these. I think they're good. I think they're quality ratchets. They're far superior to the Pittsburgh stuff. They're far superior to like a low dollar ratchet that you're going to buy from somewhere else. I'd say these are a little louder as far as the ratchet mechanisms go, but that to me is not indicative of a, of a cheap ratchet. There's low back drag on them, which is nice. I think this one's the quietest one. Yeah. Yeah, just breaking bolts loose with this long one is nice. I mean, this doesn't replace a breaker bar, but it's very, very usable. And then being able to, if you've got the space, to drive like that, pretty nice. This one is slowly becoming my daily driver as far as the use of a 3/8 ratchet, whereas it's kind of a toss-up on the 1/4 inch for a daily driver. I'm liking this. It's about the right size, and in comparison to my Blue Point, it's a little bit longer, but it has the ability to go this direction and actually drive something in a relatively nice manner. This one's a nice to have. I like it. I've used it several occasions, but in general, I'm not reaching for this 1/4 inch drive one as often as I'm reaching for this 1/4 inch drive one, and that's just something I'm noticing. Whereas I am using this one in 3/8 much more frequently than I'm using this one, but every so often I want that longer wrench. Sometimes you need the non-comfort grip. There's guys who love comfort grip on everything, and there's guys who don't want comfort grip on everything, and I kind of like having a mix. You're working outside in the cold, you're going to want a comfort grip. It's a noticeable temperature difference than when you're grabbing metal that it's 4 degrees outside. And yeah, you should be wearing gloves. The pro tip of having hot hands in your gloves is well worth it. But in general, I like having a mixture of both. And this Stubby is proving to be, if you go get one right now, I'd tell you go get a Stubby, because there's so many times where you're choking up on the actual ratchet itself, and it's just because you don't need all that swing in what you're doing, and so this saves you all the choke up, and you're not going to forget that this is in your pocket, but it's not so heavy that it is annoying or anything. And just you have it there, and then you just swap the socket out and go. Like I said, I don't have enough hours on these to adequately say, like, here's my rock solid opinion, but what I have seen so far in the initial handshake, these are handling well. They're not showing the chintzy signs of a non-professional tool. So far I like them. It baffles me that there's guys who buy tools and they have 2 hours of use on it, and then they do a review video on it. It's like that's not the way I want to go. This is me getting to know this tool, and I want to update you guys in 6 months, let you know how these are going. I want to update you in a year, and hey, this worked, this didn't work, I thought I wanted this, like, man, I'm in love with this. Hey, this broke, and here's the warranty process. That's the angle I'm wanting to go with a lot of these reviews. Yeah, some of these tools that I've had for 13 years, you're probably not going to need a ton of videos on this, but this one, and if you're watching this in the future, there will be links to follow-up videos on these ratchets, just so you guys can see how they've held up over time. Because the nice part about a lot of tool companies is if they have a tool, they're probably going to be making it for a while. So you can check these out and see if they're worth your while. That being said, go do hard things.